Welcome to part two of our negotiations series. I'm Tom Matthews.
And I'm Joanne Taranto.
In the last series, we talked about price. Price, how do you negotiate price on an offer from a buyer's perspective? Today, we're going to talk about earnest money. So Joanne, what is earnest money?
Earnest money is that money that you put into escrow during the transaction. So there are 2 points in the transaction where you put up earnest money. The first is with the offer, and the second is with the purchase and sale. And let's talk about the offer earnest money to start out with. So what are some strategies that we have seen and employed ourselves?
Yes, we primarily work in Concord, and what we've seen historically is people put $1,000 up with the offer. But what has happened is price values have gone up. $1,000 has become less and less important. If you were to put that money up and walk away from it, a lot of people can do that. So if you want your offer to stand out, we encourage people to put earnest money of $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 up with the offer. That shows the seller you're committed to this house, and then you're not going to arbitrarily walk away from the deal. Now, it's important for you to know that earnest money can be non-refundable if you walk away from the deal. But if you do conclude with the deal, that will become part of your down payment. If you're all cash, that will be part of your purchase price. And it's important to understand the role of this money. This money will be held in escrow, typically by the seller's agent or by the seller's agent attorney. And that money sits in an account that is not touched by anybody until the transaction has concluded. The favorable outcome is concluding with a deed recording. But if the deal were to fall out of escrow and you were to walk away arbitrarily, that money can be released to the sellers.
So by putting down a little bit more at the offer, it says something really important to the seller. It says, I'm serious. And this is particularly important for a competing offer scenario where we are seeing a lot of multiple offers on homes that come to the market in Concord. We want to make sure you're prepared to understand how to be more aggressive, less aggressive, and when's the right time to use either strategy. And so by putting down more money with the offer, it then says to the seller, I am very serious about this home. I am interested in moving straight into a purchase and sale, and therefore I'm going to put something more than what somebody else might.
Right. And in Massachusetts, as Joanne talked about, we are a dual contract state. So we go from the offer stage to then we have a purchase and sale stage. Historically, what we've seen is people will put a total of 5% down between the offer and the purchase and sale. But again, if you're in a very competitive situation and maybe you've elected to put $15,000 up with the offer, you may elect to put 7.5% or 10% up at the purchase and sale. Again, that is real money. If you're buying a $1.5 million house, you're talking between $75,000 and $150,000. What that money does is it is giving the seller the peace of mind that you are not going to arbitrarily wake up on a gray morning and walk away from the deal. And if you do arbitrarily walk away from the deal, that money will give the seller some compensation so that they can get their home back on the market. Because what buyers don't realize is that when a home comes to the market, that initial entrance to the multiple listing service is when the house is going to have its greatest attraction from buyers and when the seller is going to get the most favorable terms. When a house falls apart, buyers never say that buyer under contract walked away. They always assume there was something wrong with the house. And that's why that earnest money becomes so important to the seller. So we want to say to a seller, if we're fully committed to a house and we know this is the house that you're going to buy and we have no concerns of financing, we have more willingness to put money up to show that seller that you are the buyer they should select. And earnest money can sometimes be a way to negotiate without just negotiating on price.
Right, absolutely.
Maybe you're looking at a house that's $1.5 million and you have one buyer that's only putting 20% down and they can only put up the standard 5% with their offer. But you have a 50% deposit and you're willing to put 10 or 15% of it up front. That seller might say, I know I have a super committed buyer and there's really virtually no way this deal is not going to close. Even though this offer might be $20,000 less, I'm taking the more secure offer.
Yes. And from a buyer perspective, you want to have a risk analysis conversation with us about this. So, because we don't recommend super aggressive strategies for people that aren't suitable for them.
Correct.
And so what we have to do is work together to understand what your risk tolerance is and how aggressive do you want to be and what makes sense for your particular scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about you. And we just want you to know there are many tools in the toolbox. And if you're going out there interviewing buyer's agents saying, why should I sign a contract with a particular broker? Ask them, what tools do they have in their toolbox to help you stand out when you're negotiating the offer?
So thank you for listening to part 2 of negotiating an offer. And today we talked about earnest money deposit. We'll look forward to seeing you in part 3.
Cheers.
Cheers.